Hi, everyone. Thanks for participating today. I know a lot of people are working or they're just Zoom weary because we've all been on Zoom way too much in the last year and a half, right? So thank you for being here so that I'm not just talking to myself today. I'm going to talk about getting back on track mentally, emotionally, physically, because we've all had a really rough year, right? And we're struggling perhaps with, we all struggle with different things, but we all need to kind of get it on track, whether it's with our diet or our mental, emotional state or physical. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to just pull up my screen here. That would help, right? My presentation. And sometimes I get very technologically fumbling, so I'm going to just take off my icon. There it is. All right. Okay, so I am going to be talking about restoring our health and vitality. We're all at different places right now, but I'm going to be focusing on how our mind and gut are very intrinsically connected and how we can restore our mental and physical health, keeping that in mind. And primarily I'm going to talk about how to do that through nutrition and how to do that with some simple tools that we can use every day. I'm going to say that definitely this past year has been quite a test for me in complying with my own advice because between the isolation and not knowing what the future will bring, not seeing my children, I haven't seen my children in almost 20 months. I've really at times struggled with my business to try to keep it going. And of course, I've had my own physical and emotional challenges. So I've on occasion hit some bouts of depression because this not knowing can really freak me out. And then of course I turn to binges of sugar and Netflix, but I haven't been too hard on myself about that because it's the reality of our lives. But what I do, and I always do, is I just say, okay, enough of that, pull up my bootstraps and get back on track because that's what I know I need to do. It's not always what I want to do, but it's what I need to do. Whoa. So did I mention I have technical challenges sometimes? All right. So I'll just tell you how I came to become a naturotherapist, holistic practitioner, really. And it's the services I provide are primarily nutrition based, but I also do various massage therapies, Reiki, reflexology. And I also, whenever I feel a client could benefit from other things, I throw that in there as well, because I have a plethora of tools. And every person is very different. So I treat them as individuals and provide them the services that they need as an individual. So this all starts when I was about in my mid-30s. I was very, very sick. Even though I was quite young, I already had IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. I had chronic asthma. I had food and environmental allergies, ulcers. I was always fighting sinus infections. I had Raynaud's disease. I was lactose intolerant. I had cysts that would grow on my ovaries and burst and grow and burst. Uterine fibroids, eczema, insomnia, chronic fatigue syndrome, brain fog, and bouts of depression. Like, wow, mid-30s, and I am already experiencing all of those things. And, you know, in and of themselves, they weren't particularly life-threatening, but they were definitely very debilitating. I was in constant pain. I was miserable. I was exhausted. And I was a single mom working as a PSW. I had a house to take care of and 2 young boys to raise. So, you know, my future looked kind of grim that way. Like, how am I going to manage all of this given my current state of health? But one day when I was working actually as a PSW, I had a bit of a huge aha moment where I was looking at my clients and thinking, you know, some of these people are not very old. They're in their 50s and 60s. That's not old at all. And here they are, housebound. They have all kinds of health issues. They have no quality of life. They don't see people. They're isolated, and they have nothing to look forward to. And I realized, if I didn't take care of myself, that was going to be me, maybe sooner rather than later. So it really scared the heck out of me and opened my eyes to like, wow, what do I need to do to change that? So I wasn't sure where to start. It's not like we had Google back then or internet. I couldn't just look it up. I thought I ate really well. I had a garden. I'd always had gardens. I grew up with gardens. I thought I had a pretty good diet, although, I did eat like 2 chocolate bars a day. I had a bit of a sweet tooth, which I'd had my whole life. I say that was like my first addiction, sugar. And I was following Canada's food guide, which I thought at the time was a pretty healthy guideline. So I was confused here. I think I'm eating well, but I have all of these chronic disorders. So I started with live blood analysis. I started seeing a naturopath, chiropractor, because I did have some structural issues too. I saw holistic practitioners, energy practitioners, and I started to just basically change my diet, heal my gut. I started to learn some stress reduction techniques, and I really needed to work on improving my quality of sleep. So eventually, surprisingly, I was able to reverse all of those conditions. And some of those conditions, like the bigger ones, they took longer, but others, I was starting to see changes pretty quickly. Like I had eczema and it was slowly disappearing. I wasn't using my puffer as much. I wasn't having as many sinus infections. So that was pretty amazing to me. That was really perhaps my second aha moment that, wow, food really does matter. And I needed to learn more. And that really launched my interest in nutrition. And I read lots of books because, like I said, internet was really not a thing yet. We had big dinosaur computers on their desks. So I decided once my children were out of the house that it was time for me to pursue my own passions. And I went back to school to study in a career of holistic health. I wanted to learn more and I wanted to teach others how to do the same thing because like, wow, this is incredible. That brings me to here today. I'm 62 years old, or almost. I have low blood pressure, normal blood pressure. I don't take any medications. I have no aches and pains. I have lots of energy. And I'm healthier today than I was even when I was in my 20s. Okay, I keep doing this wrong. All right, so I love this quote because it really summarizes how I feel about food and what's been my own experience. Food can definitely be either the most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Our grandparents didn't grow up with the foods that we eat today. They weren't exposed to all the GMOs and chemicals and all of the stuff that we're exposed to. They ate organic food, organic produce, free range, pasture raised animals. They didn't have wheat loaded with the gluten that we eat today. So today, now we have more than 95% of chronic disease that's caused by food choices and the toxins in our food, and we're nutritionally deficient, and most of us aren't exercising nearly as much as we should. Which I heard an expression that I think really summarizes all of this. We are overfed and undernourished. We think of food in terms of fat and protein and carbohydrates, and we might think about minerals and vitamins, but for the most part, we just think of food as something to fill us up and maybe give us some energy. But it's really important to understand that food is not just that. The foods that we choose to eat literally change the expression of our DNA. Food is information. And I'm going to say that again. Food changes our DNA. Oops, next slide. And how does that happen? Well, food literally speaks to our genes, and it will turn our genes on or off. And what I mean by that is we all have predispositions to different health, potentially health issues that we have inherited from our parents and grandparents. So for example, Every single one of my father's siblings, and him included, they all died of some form of cancer. On my mother's side, it was all heart disease. Now, depending on how I choose to eat and how I choose to live my life and the lifestyle that I have, there's a really good chance that if I eat the right foods and have do the right things to keep myself healthy, that those genes will not get turned on. And that whole science is called epigenetics. We have millions of molecules of information in every single bite of food that we eat. And that gets translated by our genes into our cells as information and instructions. And that's how that whole mechanism happens. And I don't want to get too scientific-y, but that's how that works. So food is much more powerful than we give it credit for. It is going to be the difference between good health and disease prevention and treatment. I have no doubt that if I had continued to live the life that I was living when I was in my 30s and eating the way that I was eating, that I would by now have developed something like cancer or heart disease. And I really do believe that I have kind of mitigated that to a degree for now. Never say never, but you know, I am very healthy and I show no signs of any of those diseases. So how does information in our food get relayed to our cells? That's, you know, again, I'm not going to get scientific-y. I'm going to try to keep it simple. We have a nerve that's called the vagus nerve. It's the largest nerve and the longest nerve in our body. And it is connected to, it starts in our brain and connects to all of our organs and systems. But today I'm going to focus on just the vagus nerve that connects the gut and our brain, because that's the most important connection as far as how it affects the rest of our body. That's where it starts. We have something like 10 times more bacteria in our gut than we have actual cells of our body. So we're made up of more bacteria than we are cells. And those are those bacteria that are in our gut regulate our immune system, regulates our metabolism, so it helps us to burn fat and calories. It helps us to digest properly, take in nutrients from the foods that we eat. It helps to regulate our mood and so many more things. Our brain and our gut also produce lots of different chemicals that help to control our feelings and emotions. So for example, serotonin, we hear of serotonin as being a happy hormone or happy chemical, does definitely help to affect our mood and keep us in a good state, but it also helps to control our circadian rhythms and help us to sleep better at night. And then there's another chemical that is produced that's called Gaba. That's the short form. It's a really long name. And that helps to manage our fears and anxieties and that sort of thing. And scientists were quite surprised to discover that both the serotonin and GABA were chemicals that were produced much more in the gut than in the brain. And just quickly, I just wanted to point out on the screen there, the communication that goes on between the gut and the brain through the vagus nerve, 80% of that communication is from the gut and 20% is from the brain to the gut. I hear some noise in the background, so maybe some people's speakers are not turned off. I don't. Anyway, I move on. So I'm going to say this often: the food that we eat is information, and it gives instructions to our body. And it starts in the gut, obviously, because we're going to eat the food, and it's going to go down through our digestive system into our gut. Our gut, I always refer to it. It's not just our stomach, but it's our intestines and our whole digestive system. And when we do have a healthy gut, we have more energy. Our digestion is working well. We don't have the gas and bloating that we might have if we had poor gut health. Our weight is managed naturally. We don't have to be on diets. Our mood, our mental, emotional state is much better. We can manage stress better. We can sleep better. There's lots of other benefits there. And we have much nicer, youthful skin. We have things like eczema are always a sure sign that there's something not right with our diet. And 80% of our immune system is in the gut, and that comes from all of the good gut bacteria we have in our gut. And the more of that gut bacteria that we have, the stronger our immune system is. So how does food affect the gut really? And how does that affect our immune system? Because that's our first line of defense against illness. I'm just catching my breath because I can talk fast and forget to breathe. It really comes down to whether or not the food we're eating is causing inflammation or if it's not. Excuse me. We have this idea that inflammation is when, you know, we hit ourselves and something swells, or a joint is swollen, or we have an injury and it swells. And those are actually natural responses. Those are good responses. The body is healing those areas. But when we eat foods that are high, like processed foods or GMO foods, foods that are high in sugar, artificial sweeteners, convenience foods, the unhealthy hydrogenated vegetable oils, and the list goes on. When we eat those foods, our immune system in our gut does not recognize that at all. It's a foreign object, and it's going like, whoa, we need to fight off these guys. And so the immune system goes on high alert, and it gets rid of those foods. But what happens over time, if that's our diet, if we're not eating a lot of the other good foods that we need to eat, our immune system is always on. It's always fighting those invaders. And over time, it really weakens our immune system. And then we can't fight off all of the good guys anymore. We can't fight off, that's not what I was wanting to say. We can't fight off anything. We can get exposed to a cold or anything, and our immune system is just too weak to fight it off because it's used its energies just in fighting off the foods that we're eating. Now, on the other hand, if we're eating lots of foods that support our gut and our brain, and I'm going to get into what those are very shortly, high fiber fruits and vegetables are really important because that's what actually feeds our good gut bacteria. We hear prebiotics. Well, you don't have to eat by prebiotics in bottles. Prebiotics are high fiber foods. Then we don't have so many inflammatory responses when we're eating. And it allows our immune system to work to protect us in all of the other ways that it should be, and not just fighting off the food or toxins that we're eating. So I know that's a lot of information. I don't know if there's any questions at this point, if it makes sense. And should I just carry on?
I think it's great so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll let you be the monitor. I don't have my chat in front of me. So chat screen, I should have said, if anybody has questions, they can punch in questions in the chat box. And maybe I'll get you, Cody, to monitor that because I don't have the chat screen in front of me.
For sure.
And yeah, if I try to do that now, I'll totally mess it up. So I want to touch before, so I've talked about the gut, and I want to talk about the brain a little bit, and how our emotions affect our physical, our body, and how it affects our gut. I mentioned the vagus nerve being the largest nerve that runs through our body, but that nerve is, the vagus nerve is the system, our central nervous system is divided into what is called the sympathetic. We hear of that as fight, flight, or freeze. We hear about that all the time, the tiger in the room. And then we hear about parasympathetic, which is when we are relaxed and resting, and that's when we can digest and eat our food. We can't be in both states. We're always in one or the other. And ideally, we want to be in a parasympathetic state where we're relaxed and resting and we can digest 80% of the time. And then we want to be and then we're going to be in the sympathetic state, but hopefully only 20% of the time. The thing is that with stress, which is the biggest thing, of course, that triggers our sympathetic nervous system, is that there's so many things that can trigger it without us even being aware of it. We can have a thought or a memory of something from the past that's happened 20 years ago. We will have, our central nervous system will react to that that emotion or thought the same way it did 20 years ago. Now, if that was a good memory, that's great. Now I'm activating the parasympathetic system. But if it was not a good memory, now I'm activating the sympathetic system. And that's important because whenever we're in the sympathetic state, everything basically shuts down. Our immune system isn't working. Our digestive system isn't working. Our organs and systems aren't working properly. So if we're in that constant state, and I don't know about you, but I've been in that state way more in this past year than I ever was before. Just the fears and the anxieties, and I had to stop watching the news because anything that we see, our optic nerve in our, behind our eye is connected to our brain, and that is sending all kinds of signals to our brain, whether we know it or not. And so we can be in that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze mode way more than we even realize it. And when we're doing that, we're paralyzing so many other parts of our system. So emotions definitely cause physical reactions in our gut and brain. So I'm going to kind of carry on and explain that a little bit more, but in ways that are maybe a little bit simpler. I don't want to get too techie, like I said, because I can go off in tangents on one of those subjects, let alone all the topics I'm covering. So stress, I just talked about stress. It comes in many forms. And we basically have emotional stress, physical stress, and environmental stress. And we're experiencing a lot more stresses in our life than we used to, even 20 years ago. I mean, just look at the internet and social media and the Wi-Fi and all the satellites in the air. Those are stresses that affect our central nervous system that we might not even be aware of. I've already talked about the emotions, fear, anxiety, anger, even things like low self-esteem and negative belief systems, the stories we tell ourselves all the time. Those are also activating our sympathetic nervous system. Or should I say parasympathetic, the bad one. Physical stress, we don't think of this, but if we have an injury or an illness, or if even working out too hard in a gym, we are creating a lot of physical stress on our bodies. And again, we're responding the same way. Toxins in our food, prescriptions, a variety of different things will affect our central nervous system. Now that's affecting our brain, which is affecting our gut, and the brain sending signals to the rest of the body. Good response, good emotions, like I said, will send off good chemicals to the body. Negative emotions and feelings will send not so good chemicals through the body. And then, of course, we have the environmental pollution, environmental stresses like pollution and toxins in the workplace or even at home. There might be mold and a whole bunch of stuff at home. Sometimes we're not aware of that. And the EMFs, which is electromagnetic fields that are in the air. We don't see it, but it's affecting us. So the bottom line is we're not going to be able to heal or regenerate if we are in a sympathetic, if our central nervous system is in the sympathetic system is activated. Oh God, let me say that again. We can't heal or regenerate if our central nervous system is in a sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze state. We can only heal and regenerate, and that happens at night when we're sleeping, if we are in the parasympathetic response state. And we can, even in our sleep, not be in that rest, digest, detoxify, and healing state. Oh, that was a mouthful. So very quickly, pictures speak 1,000 words, but these are all things that we are in our diet. For some people, maybe more, maybe less, but it is wreaking havoc on our health, on our gut, on our brain, our organs, and I'll let you read the list for yourself, but digestive issues, skin issues, our adrenals, we're developing all kinds of allergies. Autoimmune diseases are through the roof. Headaches, migraines, depression, anxiety, none of these things these are all very common side effects to eating all of these foods, which I don't really call food. I have to call them non-foods because they're really not, they're void of nutrition. There's like really there's so much toxins in these foods that it's not worth eating because there is no nutritional value. But the three primary ingredients used in processed foods that really damage our brain are the refined starches like wheat, rice, barley, soy, corn, not just because they are refined starches, but also because they're genetically modified for the most part. And sugar and all the different forms of sugars, they have like 50 names now for all the different sugars that are in our ingredients in our foods. 75% of the foods on the shelves in our grocery store are loaded with sugars we just don't need. And then the hydrogenated vegetable oils and margarines, those are the three ingredients when combined together create the bliss point, the food industry calls it, and it makes it very, very addictive. Now, other things that cause damage to our gut are things like antibiotics and medications and birth controls and painkillers and skincare products, because it comes into our bloodstream through our pores, and household cleaners. And obviously some of these things we have to take, we need medications, and antibiotics can be life-saving. But we have to remember that there's a consequence to that. So eating the foods that we need to eat is absolutely necessary. And what are those foods? This is a list of our images of the foods that really support our brain and our gut. But it's just a few things, but they're big ones. They're really big ones. There's the fats, the greens, antioxidants. That's basically what you're seeing here is good proteins, good fats, and good fruits and vegetables. And you can see that when we are eating to support our gut and our brain, we are going to have improved focus and clarity. We are going to have increased energy and endurance. Our anxiety and depression will lessen. Our weight will manage, health will manage itself. Just eating the way that we need to, our bodies will find its natural set point without going again on those diets that don't work. We also start to sleep better. We have a better complexion and less mood swings. And that even includes when we're going through menopause, because menopause was a nightmare for me with mood swings. But I did definitely manage it better when I was eating better. So having the right diet is so critical. I'm going to get into more specifics about our diet. Oils and fats were vilified for a lot of years. And we were told we needed to eat a low-fat diet. And fortunately, that turned out to be, first of all, not based on science, and secondly, very wrong. Obviously, there are fats we need to avoid, but we need the good fats. We definitely need the good fats like organic butter and ghee. Always cold pressed anything, cold pressed, first pressed, because that means the oils were extracted in a cold process, not a heating process. Heating oils, when it's being processed, just makes them carcinogenic, causes cancer, and makes them very toxic. So, like I was saying, the coconut oil, olive oil, the ghee, they also all are very stable at high temperatures, except maybe the olive oil, but you can still cook with it, just lower temperatures. And the flaxseed oil, that one is not so much for cooking, but it's very, very good for our brains. And oils are anti-inflammatory. And our brain is made, 60% of our brain is fat. So we really need fat, and we need good fats to support our brain. The fat also is very important for our hearts and for our joints, and to reduce inflammation everywhere. The bad fats, on the other hand, are fats like sunflower, safflower, canola oil, corn oil, vegetable shortening, walnut oil, grapeseed oil, soybeans, and margarine. And no, there are no good margarines, sorry. These oils are all, they all use hydrogenation in manufacturing. They use high heat, which creates a lot of free radicals, which, like I said, is cancerous. And they all need to be chemically refined to keep them from going rancid. And any oil, on that note of rancidity, you always want to keep your oils in the dark. You don't want them exposed to the sunlight. They will get rancid much faster if you do that. Ideally, buy bottles that are dark to keep the sunlight out. And these oils, the ones that are the bad oils, they have omega-6 oil in it, omega-6 fat, sorry. Fats are either omega-3, 6, or 9, or a little bit of all of them, or a mixture, but omega-6 causes cancer, inflammation. Omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, and omega-9 is as well, but mostly we want omega-3. Oh, I'll stop to breathe now. So protein. As we age, we start to lose more muscle mass, and it happens even faster after menopause. And protein is the building blocks of our bodies. We need protein every day because our bodies cannot store protein, so we need to eat it every day. And we can have plant-based proteins or animal-based proteins. Obviously, if you're vegan, you're not going to eat the animal-based proteins, but there are lots of plant-based proteins as well. Flaxseed, chia seeds, hemp hearts, avocado, also lots of great fat and fat and protein. All kinds of beans, lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, soy, but always buy organic if that's something that you like. And there's lots of vegetables like broccoli, kale, mushrooms, believe it or not, they all have some amount of protein. It's just really important to be eating good quality protein. Ideally, 20 to 25 grams a day, dispersed 3 times a day, not snacking all day, but having three meals a day. And if you combine protein with oil, then you're going to be satiated, you're going to be full, and you won't be snacking on things and reaching for things you might not normally eat. So grass-fed meats and bone broth are really good for our brain and our gut. We want to eat pastured, free-range chickens and eggs, wild fish, and it's really hard to find wild fish. I'm going to tell you, if you look at a package in the grocery store, it says wild, flip over the box. It's going to show you which farm it grew up on. It was raised on. That's all marketing. There are no regulations. Basically, it's wild because the farm was in the middle of the ocean, so they consider it wild. Nuts, seeds, and legumes are great sources of protein if you're, of course, not allergic to nuts. And fermented foods are like kefir and miso are dairy or soy-based, and they are good forms of protein if, of course, they are organic. And here is the pièce of résistance. Our fruits and vegetables are where we have all of our vitamins and minerals. And Mother Nature is pretty smart, right? If you eat the rainbow of vegetables, you are going to be addressing all aspects of health. So white vegetables are really good for the immune system. Yellow vegetables and fruits are for your skin. Orange is very cancer preventive. Green really detoxifies. That's why we always hear about those smoothies, those green smoothies that we all hate, but they detoxify. Red is for the heart health, and purple vegetables, fruits and vegetables are for longevity. So rather than think, oh, does this vegetable, which one has this and which one has that, and just eat the rainbow, and you're covering all aspects. We do want to eat lots of fiber because, like I said, the fiber feeds the good bacteria in our gut. We want variety. When it comes to fruits, we want to be eating fruits that are more the berries, because the berries are very high in antioxidants. They're anti-inflammatory. Wild blueberries over, for example, just the domesticated, because they have much more antioxidants. Blackberries, strawberries, cranberries, those are all really high antioxidants. The antioxidants are what are cancer preventive. And you want to be eating, I want to just touch on cabbage specifically, different kinds of cabbage, because cabbage has L-glutamine in it, and that has been shown to really heal the digestive system. When we're eating too many foods that are, what do I want to call them, non-foods, all of the fast foods, they over time cause a lot of damage to our gut. And the L-glutamine that's in the cabbage really helps to heal that. So does bone broth and sauerkraut. It's fermented, so it's loaded with good bacteria, and it has the L-glutamine from the cabbage. So Mother Nature is pretty smart. I have now basically covered food very generally, because food is very specific to, everyone is very different. Some people can process more of, you notice I didn't talk about bread and all of the refined carbs. I didn't talk about those because those are not nutrients that are essential in our diet. We can get everything that we need from all of the other foods. If we're needing certain things, our body will take what we're eating and convert it to what it needs. For the most part, there are some things that doesn't happen, that we have to take supplements, but for the most part, that's how our system works. So there are a lot of habits that will really support our brain, which in turn will support our whole health and will support our gut. Once again, all intrinsically connected, and for our optimal health, I guess, I'll say we should be incorporating some other really important aspects in our lifestyle. So of course, I've talked about food, clean food, and there's a list called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen that I'm going to just quickly touch on, that gives you a list of all of the fruits and vegetables that are Clean 15 are all the fruits and vegetables that you can eat that are not organic, and you just can wash them off, and the toxins and pesticides and herbicides can get washed off. The Dirty Dozen, on the other hand, are fruits and vegetables that are very, very heavily sprayed, so much so that it gets saturated into the soil and into the plants. And so you're basically eating a fruit or a vegetable loaded with toxins. So instead of trying to buy everything organic, which is really expensive, refer to the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. You can look it up online if you need it. I can send it to you. I use that when I go grocery shopping. Of course, it's in my head now, but there are certain things I definitely always buy organic, and then there are other things that I don't worry about. So that's that on food. Sleep is definitely second behind nutrition as far as how important it is with regards to our health. It affects our blood sugar, our blood pressure, our brain health. It helps, if we're not sleeping well, it increases our risk for heart attacks and strokes. It increases our risk of autoimmune diseases, diabetes, obesity, just a variety of things. So we really need to be sleeping ideally 8 hours a day. I know a lot of people don't get 8 hours a day, especially fitful rest. Fitful rest, 4 to 5 hours of REM, that deep sleep state, is when we heal and repair and detoxify. It's hard to get that kind of sleep sometimes when we're really stressed out. But if we even reduce are, if let's say we require, because we're all a little bit different too, 7 hours of sleep every night, and we're only getting 6, over the course of a year, we will put on, give or take, 14 pounds of body fat, because we're not, the benefits of the sleep that we need, we're not getting. To get a good night's sleep, one of our new nemesis when it comes to sleep is technology. We're watching movies on these big screens, or on our laptop, or even on our phone. We're on the phone all day long, and that really affects our brain's ability to produce melatonin. So if we don't have melatonin, we can't sleep. And also the lights are signaling that it's daytime. Hey, we don't have to relax and get ready for bed. So it's really important to stop watching any kind of TV screens of that kind of nature at least an hour before going to bed. Turn off the technology if you can. I turn off my modem at home so that I don't have Wi-Fi all over the place, and I put my phone on airplane mode. And I have my phone in my bedroom because it's my alarm, but it's on airplane mode, so I'm not getting any kind of signal. And of course, we need to be moving. We're a very sedentary population, especially this past year, right? We have been very restricted, but there's things that we can still do. And what that looks like for you will be very different, because we're all at different levels of health. So we might just be walking. Maybe we can't even walk, so we can do. I've seen all kinds of videos doing yoga in chairs. We can be, even just stretching is really good for the body. Put some music on and do some crazy, silly dancing. Movement is key. If you're sitting a lot, get up every 20 minutes, move around. And I do, of course, recommend that we incorporate some resistance training. Like I said, our muscles, we start to lose muscle mass as we get older. Women, especially when they're menopausal, start to lose muscle mass even faster. And muscle is important because not just for strength, but a lot of elderly people start to have difficulty getting even up out of a chair because they no longer have muscles in their legs. So it's really important. Just walking can help with that, but we need to do weight training. Very easy. It doesn't have to be crazy weight training. Just having a few weights in our hands and doing weights every day can help to at least maintain the muscle mass that we do have. And you can use, I don't know, cans in the kitchen, anything that is going to allow you to do some form of resistance training. I want to touch on stress reduction. It's a huge topic. There's all kinds of different methods of reducing stress out there. But some of the ones we don't think about are things like laughter. Laughter reduces a lot of stress. Watch some crazy, silly movies, or hang out with some people that make you laugh instead of people that depress you. Being in community, I know that's hard to do right now, but we can still be in community via this platform. Tai Chi and Qigong. Those are things that really help to reduce stress. They are very low impact. It requires that we use our brain a little bit more for Tai Chi, which is not a bad thing because it's keeping our brain sharp. Being out in nature really helps to decompress and reduce stress. Grounding, I love grounding. Just walking barefoot on the ground 10-15 minutes is very stress reducing. Not only does it help me to reduce stress, but it actually gives me a lot of energy. And EFT is phenomenal. I've been using EFT for a really long time, but it helps when I suddenly am faced with a negative emotion that I just don't want to. I just want to get rid of it. EFT, it's tapping on meridians, and it's too complicated for me to explain here, but I just recently did a video interviewing one of the practitioners in North Bay who does EFT, and I can provide that link if anybody wants it, but it's amazing. It's very, very powerful. It's fast, and it helps us to kind of just shake off whatever it is that just got us into that stress state. And there's breathing. We all breathe, right? But a lot of us don't breathe properly, which that in and of itself really creates more stress. So when we are in that state of stress, two things. We want to make sure we're breathing from our abdomen. So we want to make sure that we're breathing in and out from our gut. So if you don't know if you are, put your hand on your stomach and just take some slow, deep breaths from the abdomen. And sometimes for some people, that's all it takes to calm them right down. And a lot of people don't even know that they breathe from their chest instead of their abdomen. And then I love there's breathing, they would call it the straw breathing, but all it is you take a breath in, a short breath in, count of 4, hold it maybe count of 4, and then you slowly release your breath, kind of like you were breathing through a straw. So it's like, but doing it slowly, maybe count of 8. And whatever that is for you, everybody, again, has different lung capacity. It could be breathing in for 6, hold for 6, breathe out for 12, it doesn't matter. That really calms down our nervous system. And do that through the day, every day, it's going to help to keep that stress level low. Let's see, detoxifying. Well, we're all exposed to all kinds of toxins, and detoxification is really important. One of the big ways of doing that, of course, is with water. Just drink lots of water. Some people like to do intermittent fasting. You could start detoxifying just by adding lots and lots more raw vegetables in your diet. It doesn't have to be crazy and dramatic. Get lots of fresh air. And I guess too, it's important to, there are certain supplements that our body doesn't produce. That's what I was talking about earlier. They have to come from our diet. Or vitamin D doesn't come from our diet, it comes from the sun. This summer, however, we haven't had a whole lot of sun, right? So we often have to supplement vitamin D, and especially in the winter, it's so critical for our brain health. A lot of people who struggle with depression really find vitamin D very, very helpful. We don't produce vitamin C, so we have to get it from our food. And people who are smokers, their vitamin C is very, very low. They're always deficient, so they should be taking a whole pile, that's a technical term, a whole lot of vitamin C every day. The DHA omega-3, which is in fish oil, is really important for our brain and for our heart health. And magnesium is also extremely important for our central nervous system, really everything. There's over 500 functions that our body performs every day that requires magnesium. And we are very depleted of magnesium when we're under stress. And again, who isn't under stress? There are lots of herbs also, and the list is long, and I can't really get into a whole lot of them, but there are herbs and teas that we can have that will really support our gut and support our brain. Ashwagandha is really good for our brain. Ginseng, slippery elm is really good for our digestive system, for healing our digestive system. Lemon balm tea, green tea, rosemary, those are all really, really good for our brain. And I know I said water. Water is really important. Helps to flush out the toxins in our body, but also we wake up in the morning dehydrated. Just breathing when we're sleeping really dehydrates us. So before you have your first cup of coffee or your first cup of tea, have a big glass of water. And that really helps to get rid of toxins, like I've said, that we've been building up through our sleep. And there's a lot of studies that show that drinking lots of water helped people, their test scores were much higher. Fasting, even for 16 hours, which sounds scary, but it's really not, it really improves your brain power and focus and concentration. So I am quite an advocate of intermittent fasting, but that's something that everybody's different. So we need to kind of know how to do that in a good way for them. So we are almost there, folks. This is what I have learned about health and vitality. I know that for me, it is very much a mindset as much as it is a lifestyle. Obviously, things can happen in our lives that we have no control over that will affect our health. That, you know, we can only do the best that we can do. But we can choose to have a mindset that is youthful. Like this slide says, research is mounting that your outlook, your personality, and how upbeat you are can have a profound impact, not just on how you feel, but also on how your cells age. And there's a tremendous amount of science behind that now. There's lots of research about what you think is what you create. Comes down to the daily behaviors and choices we make in a day. Epigenetics very clearly shows that aging is not just an aspect of genetics, but of how we live. Deciding to live better is the same as deciding to live younger. So I'm choosing to live younger, and my office administrator, she has a nickname for me. She calls me the happy hippie. and for the most part, I am pretty happy most of the time. And yeah, I am definitely a hippie. I walk around bare feet, and, you know, I do a lot of very hippie things, and that's okay. That's who I am, and I'm quite okay with that. So I really just scratched the surface on all of this. I'm going to just stop sharing if I can figure out how to do that again. I have definitely just scratched the surface. Everyone is very unique and different with regards to what they need to do for themselves with nutrition and different aspects of calming the brain. I don't know if there's any questions at this point.
I had a question for you. Because of where we live, I know a lot of people in this area are low income and have trouble accessing organic foods and even a variety of foods in our grocery stores. Do you have like a top 5 tips or something like that for lower income people that they can make changes to their lives?
Yeah. So there are things, so let's say protein, for example. Mm-hmm. Protein, meat is expensive, right? But we also get protein in beans, in lentils, all of those things. They're very high in fiber and different types of protein. And when you combine something like beans with rice or a vegetable that is cheaper, then you have a full protein. In terms of vegetables, that's where the clean 15 and dirty dozen really comes in, because the clean 15, those are vegetables that you don't have to worry about being organic. And they're, because organic is expensive, no doubt about it. There's, maybe they need to become friends with local farmers or people who have gardens to get some good produce. Mm-hmm. But I have a huge garden and I can't eat it all, so I'm always giving lots of it away. But yes, referring to the clean 15, so a lot of the root vegetables, and they tend to be cheaper as well. They are very good for you. Unfortunately, things like the greens, the other thing they can do is they can grow their own in pots. I've literally grown vegetables in pots. Lettuces, you could, and it's very pretty. You can have a pot with some soil and just put some seeds and grow your own different greens, you know, and because greens, like I said, are detoxifying. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. I tried this year growing carrots in pots, and it actually worked quite well. So those are some options.
And actually, to your point, the library has a seed library. So for people looking to get seeds that might not be able to afford them, we do have seeds available. And it's a take a seed, leave a seed kind of thing. So if you take seeds in the spring, right, then harvest some in the fall to bring back in and replenish the seed library. So that's really good advice.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I have lots of seeds. Yeah. plant in some pots, you know, and then you can bring the pots outside and bring them back in. I planted a whole bunch of carrots, like I said. I'm going to be bringing some into the house in the fall, and I'm going to still be eating carrots through early winter because I'll have some fresh carrots. So
my mom is so funny with that. She has a huge garden, and she'll go out in the middle of winter. If the ground is, you know, not quite frozen yet, she'll go out and dig up carrots.
Yep. And they are so tasty after first frost. Yeah, there's a lot of vegetables that are quite tasty. Yeah. So that would be my suggestion. But become friends with someone who has gardens. That's my, that's my, even, you know, offer to help. And then, you know, in exchange, you get some produce.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had said that I have an offer, and what I was going to do, Cody, is I was going to send this information to you. Okay. So anyone who is interested in doing a consultation, one-on-one consultation for nutrition, I'm going to offer $10 off their initial consultation, and I can email the code for that, and I'll offer it for, let's say, until the end of September if they want to book an appointment before then. Awesome. And even anybody who ends up watching this video, like on the video, they can do that as well.
So anyone who, anyone who watches the recording, I'll just say, reach out to Burk Falls Library, and then I can give you the code that way.
Yeah, they can reach out to you or to me, and I can email it to them. Yep, for sure.
Awesome. Yep. Any questions from anyone else?
No, I'm good, thank you. I mean, a lot of this information I already know.
Yes, you do.
You know, but it's always good to add something to what I know. Yeah, and I definitely would like a consultation. Unfortunately, I'm away now from August the 24th until September the 22nd.
Well, we can make exceptions, Marie.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. And I have all your information in my phone anyway, so I know how to get in touch with you. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. It was great to hear from you, Marie.
Alrighty. Yeah, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
All right. Wendy?
Wendy, I don't have any questions, but I do want to say I really enjoyed your presentation. I did learn quite a bit. Some things I knew, but not everything. I'm looking forward to the video, and I'll have to strap my husband into a chair and make him watch it with me.
Bribe him with something.
Yeah. We got to put away the junk food and get out the vegetables. It's funny because we eat a lot of very fresh, you know, what I consider healthy food, but we also have some poor habits that we need to improve on.
Yeah.
And as we age, it's very important that we get back on track. So I do appreciate the presentation. I found it very informative.
Okay, great. I'm happy to hear that. Thanks, Wendy.
So thank you.
It's my pleasure. All righty. Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Lise. Thank you, Cody. That was great.
Thank you.
And thanks for Burk Falls Library for offering this program. It's great. I just wish more people had taken advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully with the recording, we can get some more people engaged that way. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Okay. And thank you so much, Lise. I really appreciate it. And I'll get you the recording sent over as soon as it finishes uploading here.
Yes, it'll take a bit of time.
Yes.
Okay. That's great.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks for asking me to do this.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.